Welcome to a new year at UVM. I'm Eric. I'm going to show you around for a while, try to give you an idea of just how great this place is. We're going to talk to some people I know, talk to some people I don't know, and give you a whole bunch of different perspectives. So let's go. All right, right off the bat, what is convocation?
Convocation?
That's a good question.
I don't know.
Something at the beginning of the year.
Isn't that like a ceremony?
From the Latin convoco, to call together. So it's an assembly of some sort.
To officially open up the school year.
How do you get to know your professors?
I think one of the best ways to get to know your professors is to go to their office hours.
Your professors are really willing to talk to you about anything that comes to mind.
Talking, hands up, being really loud in class, I don't have a problem with that.
Definitely introduced myself to the professors in the first week of classes.
I took advantage of the office hours that they provided because I found that it was easier to succeed in a classroom where I knew the professor.
If UVM were a song, what would it be and why?
Guns N' Roses, Welcome to the Jungle.
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Man, I can't think of one.
Why?
Because there's just so much to it.
Time of Your Life by Green Day.
The Beatles, Let It Be.
It's got to be more than a feeling. One of the things, a great song, it just gets you in the mood, and it's really you rock out when you hear More Than a Feeling.
Can you talk about a favorite UVM tradition?
You know what I want to say, but I'm not sure if I should say it.
Say it.
Naked bike ride.
Really speaks to UVM as a free community and one where you can be really open.
But I like going to the hockey games because it's just an unbelievable feeling. The naked bike ride. I got to work out a little bit first, but I'll do it.
The naked bike ride thing's gonna get me in trouble. Crap.
Dude, we've got an awesome fight song.
Could you give us a little sample of that?
Let's fight, fight, fight for old Vermont, for Vermont evermore. Hey!
So what's one of the best things UVM has done for you?
It's brought me out of my shell, per se.
I think UVM has changed not necessarily who I am, but what I can be.
My time as an orientation leader, as an RA, those experiences have definitely bolstered my character.
I think being a part of the athletic department, we really have a strong tradition in athletics here at the university.
But it's also given me the opportunity to further myself as a leader with all the leadership positions that I have, and of course established a group of friends that I think I'll keep for a lifetime.
If it weren't for the mountains surrounding campus and the lake, it wouldn't be UVM.
If it weren't for student voice and activism.
A lot of loud people with sandals on in the winter.
It's the ultimate wilderness playground.
The wonderful student atmosphere here.
Catamounts.
The mountains.
Ben & Jerry's.
If it weren't for the people, it wouldn't be UVM.
I would say get involved.
Don't sit in your room.
Climb to the top of the Williams Fire Escape and see a sunset over Lake Champlain and the Adirondack Mountains.
Take advantage of all the things that the campus has to offer.
Don't take any one thing too seriously.
Play intramural room ball.
Check out Burlington.
Definitely get involved with as many activities and clubs as you can.
Climb Mount Mansfield, be on the top of it. Don't skip class.
Go to the hockey games. The onion rings at Vermont Pub and Brewery, they are life-changing.
Get out and, experience UVM. Don't sit around and hang out on your computer all day.
Good evening, and welcome to the University of Vermont 2007 Convocation. My name is Laura Sadlier, President of the Interresidents Association and member of the class of 2009, pursuing a degree in psychology. At UVM, we pride ourselves in having an active student body, being involved at various levels of the institution. Having been in your shoes 2 years ago, the best advice I can give you is to get involved. During my first month on campus, I found myself attending many programs run by the Inter-Residence Association, never dreaming that I would be standing here before you as the president of one of the university's largest student organizations. How will you get involved? Doing so will only enhance your education and experience here at UVM. I hope your first year is the start of a successful career here. Ladies and gentlemen, please now stand. Entering the hall are the Chair of the Board of Trustees, Carl H. Listman, President of the University of Vermont, Daniel Mark Fogel, Senior Vice President and Provost, John M. Hughes, President of the Student Government Association, Keisha K. Ram, President of the Staff Council, Zancy Von Hooks, and our guest of honor, author Ishmael Beah, led by the President of the Faculty Senate and University Marshal, Robin R. Warhol Down, and the pipes and drums of St. Andrew's Society of Vermont. Thank you.
Please be seated. Here, now, in the presence of members of the faculty and administration, trustees, alumni, honored guests, parents and friends, returning students, and new students of the class of 2011 of the University of Vermont, the 2007 Convocation is hereby convened. As President of the Faculty Senate, I have the privilege of welcoming you all to the 2007 opening convocation of UVM. Today is the first day of the brand new school year, 07-08, this next set of 9 months when we faculty, students, and staff will be dedicating ourselves to the pursuit of learning in our classrooms and to the creation of new knowledge in our research. For that is what we do at the university, students and faculty alike. We try to communicate as much as we can about what is already known, and we collaborate to find original ways of looking at received wisdom and to articulate the new knowledge that results. For me, the first week of classes is the most exciting time of the year. As a professor of English, my very favorite course is always the one I'm just about to teach. Few parts of my job hold more promise, more excitement, or more gratification than a newly written syllabus. It represents the Platonic ideal of how I might help my students think critically about our subject matter. To be honest, I'm excited, but I'm also always apprehensive. Still now, after 25 years of teaching at UVM, that's 50 first days of class. I still get butterflies in my stomach when I must walk into the room with that pile of new syllabi. What if the students will be bored? What if they don't like me? What if my course isn't any good? And I'm not the only one. My colleagues tell me they all feel the same. We enter that first class and see a room full of faces that look as nervous as we feel. But by the second week of the semester, we're all into the rhythm of working hard and enjoying ourselves as we do the work, each week moving closer to commencement. Commencement is, of course, the next time that we will all gather together as a community. In the meantime, we have work to do and to enjoy. Students, new and returning, the faculty welcomes you back. Thank you. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the President of the University Staff Council, Zancy von Hooks.
Thank you, Dr. Warhol. Welcome and hello from all of us, UVM class of 2011. You are a sight to behold. On behalf of the almost 3,000 UVM staff, I welcome you with open arms. And at the risk of sounding too much like a mother, I will share the same counsel with you as I did with my daughter Brittany, who joins you in this auspicious occasion today as a member of the largest incoming freshman class in UVM history. What an exciting time for you, filled with new opportunities and challenges. The ethics which you bring to our UVM community will be the foundation of your accomplishments. The faculty in place are concerned for your academic victory, the development of your intellect, and your personal well-being. You are in good hands. This is above all a community which cares deeply about each individual student. We receive our rewards by witness to your successes. You are the future. From you, there will come cures and medical advancements. From you, there will come the solution to society's environmental errors. From you, there will come the verses which will comfort and inspire. From you, there will come the technology which will unite this globe. From you, there will come the educators who will encourage others. From you, there will come the compassionate humanitarians. And from you, there will come the scientists who give understanding to our history and insight into our futures. I wish you success in the expansion of your mind driven by a curious intellect. I wish you grace and good temperament. It is an honor to address this assembly and to welcome you. It has been said that the quality of a person's life is in direct proportion to their commitment to excellence, regardless of their chosen field of endeavor. Welcome. It is now my pleasure to introduce the chair of the University of Vermont Board of Trustees extraordinaire, Carl Listman, UVM class of 1967.
I wanted to give you a warm welcome, but I think you got the warmth before I got up. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, it's my pleasure and my honor to welcome the class of 2011 to the University of Vermont. There aren't many places like a university. Universities are unique in many respects. One of those aspects is that it's a meritocracy, places where students and faculty are judged on their ideas, their skills, and their abilities. As freshmen, you have the singular advantage of starting on a clean slate. This is the third convocation that I have attended at the University of Vermont. The last 2 years were the first two that I attended. I never attended convocation when I was a student here. That was an error of judgment that was pretty consistent with how I handled my first 6 months at UVM. I hope that you will successfully avoid the stupidities and the pitfalls that befell me during my first semester. I arrived here in the fall of 1963. That was before some of you were born. I was handed a beanie. This beanie. Aren't you glad we don't do this anymore? The ritual was that the freshman men had to wear their beanie until the football team scored its first touchdown of the year. Now you know why we don't make you wear these anymore. When I got here, I was ready to conquer this university, if not the world. I knew everything that anybody needed to know. And near the top of the list was the fact that I was, in the vernacular of my day, cool beyond belief. I know that cool is a generational word, and I trust that you will be able to substitute a more meaningful word for it. But understand that I was too cool to take it all in, too cool to be surprised, too cool to be a little overwhelmed by being a freshman in college, too cool to notice, let alone to stop to smell the roses. I can tell you now that in spite of my coolness, and certainly not because of it, I survived my first semester, but only just barely. So I believe that I'm very qualified to share with you in the next minute or so Listman's rules for being a freshman at UVM. I know that the upperclassmen who are here already understand these rules because they caught on and understood. So with apologies to David Letterman, here we go. Number 10, go to class. Cool is getting an education. That's why you're here. Not cool is wasting this opportunity. 9, get to know your professors. They're here because they're teachers. It takes 2 for teaching to be successful. Don't be bashful. You're here to learn. Take advantage of their knowledge, their experience, their intellect, and their personalities. 8, get to know your classmates. What makes a university experience special is the chance to grow from being around people who aren't like you, who don't think like you, who may not look like you, and who come from very different backgrounds. 7, explore the campus. Check out its facilities. Sign up for a club or an activity. There's more to do than you can imagine. 6, get involved as a volunteer. Find a charity, find a cause. Find something fun. Find something that needs to be done. You and your classmates and your professors and the administrators and the staff can make a huge difference. 5, study. Be prepared for class. Participate in class. That doesn't mean you need to raise your hand every time, but it means that the learning process is interactive. 4, think. Think about big things. Think about little things. Investigate. Discover. Strive to improve yourself. 3, make good choices. Though now is the time to test your limits, it's also very much the time to make the right choices and to always be thinking about your personal safety, physical and mental. Your parents, well, most of your parents won't be here to make and enforce rules. You are now your primary rule maker and rule enforcer. A large measure of your success here will be how you handle this new responsibility. Almost there. 2, appreciate what your parents and others have done to get you here. Sacrifices have been made for you to be here. Thank those who have done for you, and thank them at every opportunity. And finally, last, no drum roll, enjoy your time at the University of the Green Mountains. If you turn out to be like almost every other UVMer who has preceded you, you'll look back here at your university years as some of the best years of your life. Welcome to UVM. Thank you. Unlike Professor Warhol or President von Hooks, who each introduced one person, I get to introduce 3 people all at the same time. A professor of geology, a vice president of the university, and the provost of the university, all wrapped in one, John Hughes.
It gives me great pleasure to welcome everyone in attendance this evening. Each of you is a distinguished guest. Today we have assembled for the special purpose of welcoming the class of 2011 into the University of Vermont Community of Scholars, a class that has already shaped UVM history by having a record-breaking number of admissions applications. As each of you embark on your academic journeys, I encourage you to explore our university and take advantage of the many opportunities to avail yourself of numerous academic and social outlets. You will experience new things here at the University of Vermont. As a university that prides itself on aiding students in becoming global citizens, we are pleased that you will be the first incoming class to benefit from the 6-credit diversity requirement. Partnerships between and among our colleges and schools are being formed to foster scholarly collaborations between students and our distinguished faculty. As part of our desire to enhance the UVM curriculum in a broader scale and further integrate you into our community of scholars, UVM faculty are working to provide opportunities for students to focus on local, national, or international problems via problem-based learning communities. You will have the opportunity to become a part of a small group that takes 2 or 3 courses together in different disciplines and work closely with distinguished faculty members on addressing the focused problems. Outside of the classroom, you will integrate academic life and social life with the help of our residential learning communities, an option that many of you have chosen already. There are also numerous opportunities to engage with world-renowned scholars through the Dan and Carol Burak President's Distinguished Lecture Series, the Aiken Lecture Series, and the James Marsh Professors at Large program. There are countless ways for you to shape your experiences here at the University of Vermont. UVM has a history of a deeply engaged student population, both in and out of the classroom, and I hope that each of you take advantage of the opportunities that are made available to you. John Dewey, famous educational philosopher and class of 1879 UVM alumnus, said, "Education is not preparation for life. Education is life itself." Thus, I encourage each of you to take advantage of the life experiences waiting for you at the University of Vermont. I truly look forward to seeing you over the next 4 years. If you see me walking around campus, please join me, please introduce yourself, and tell me about the exciting things that you are doing at UVM. I would truly enjoy that. I wish you the best of luck as we travel the next 4 years together. At this time, it is my great pleasure to introduce President Daniel Mark Fogel. President Fogel took office in July 2002 as the 25th President of the University of Vermont, also assuming a tenured position as Professor of English. President Fogel's vision for the University of Vermont has resulted in the establishment of a university-wide honors college, the addition of the University Heights Student Residential Learning Complex, which is air-conditioned, and the construction of the newly opened Dudley H. Davis Center, the new student union. Before coming to the University of Vermont, President Fogel was Executive Vice Chancellor and Provost at Louisiana State University. At LSU, President Fogel spearheaded a diversity initiative that increased the number of African American graduate students from 126 to 314. As a result, LSU currently leads the nation in production of African American PhDs in chemistry and in English, language, and literature. President Fogel has had an active career as a scholar and teacher in English and American literature and in creative writing. The founding editor of the Henry James Review, he has produced 4 authored and 3 edited books, has published dozens of articles and reviews, and is an authority on Henry James, James Joyce, and Virginia Woolf. He earned a BA degree, magna cum laude, in English in 1969, a Master of Fine Arts in Creative Writing in 1974, and a PhD in English in 1976, all from Cornell University. Since joining the UVM faculty, President Fogel has continued to teach through guest lectures, co-teaching classes, and leading continuing education short courses. Daniel Mark Fogel is married to the painter Rachel Kahn, and as a couple, they are the Kahn Fogels. They have 2 children, Nicholas Alden Kahn Fogel, who is teaching law at the University of Zambia, and Rosemary Kahn Fogel Luttrell, who is working on her graduate studies at the University of Georgia. Please assist me in welcoming our university president, Daniel Mark Fogel.
Thank you very much, Provost Hughes, Chairman Listman, Faculty Senate President Warhol, Staff Council President Von Hooks, Student Government President Ram, Inter-Residence Association President Sadlier, Provost Hughes, Vice Presidents, Deans, faculty, staff, students, alumni, friends, community members, and above all, those students who have just joined the University of Vermont family. Welcome, and my, oh my, what a marvelous and memorable occasion this is today. Here we are on the threshold of another year of continuing intellectual, professional, and personal growth for all of us whom UVM has brought together to learn, to teach, to extend the boundaries of understanding and expression, and to serve the common good of Vermont and the larger world. A year that marks the highest enrollment in the history of the University of the Green Mountains, the opening of the Dudley H. Davis Center, and on Dudley's 86th birthday to boot, UVM's commitment to climate-neutral operations, the launch of our problem-based learning communities, including one focused on nation-building in Africa and the Sudan, and much, much more. We have much for which to be grateful, and for our new students, for the support of the Vermont community, for the engagement of our devoted alumni, for the work of our distinguished and talented faculty and staff, and at this moment of celebration for the work of the members of the campus community, faculty, students, and staff who have worked very hard to create for us the many activities of this day of celebration. I am thinking especially of colleagues in the athletic department, Jesse Bridges, for instance, who handled the ticketing for this event, and student affairs, for instance, Danny Cormier, director of orientation programs, at the Davis Center, at the UVM bookstore, and in residential life. I'm also thinking of police services and the support they've received from the City of Burlington and Burlington Chief of Police Tom Tremblay, especially in the closing of Main Street that will facilitate our parade to the green, of parking and transportation services, of our Sodexo dining partners, of colleagues in university communications, and of people in my office, notably my assistant Michelle Atherton, Chief of Staff Gary Durr, and Administrator of University Events Leslie Logan, and her assistant Stephanie O'Flaherty. And then there are numerous students and student groups to thank. Not only those on the platform, but also the members of our honor societies, our UVM ambassadors, our RAs, and student orientation leaders. Yeah, let's hear it for the RAs. The student workers in the Davis Center, and the list could go on and on. To adopt an African proverb, you can see that it takes a village to raise a celebration like this one, going from the convocation to the twilight induction ceremony to the green carpet premiere of the Davis Center. Please join me in a big round of applause for everyone who has worked so hard to carry all of this off. We are celebrating the new academic year at an exceptional university, and one with a very strong commitment to social justice and a lived dedication to the global community. It is thus fitting that we have gathered to hear today an extraordinary voice for human rights, Ishmael Beah, and that we are doing so as the highlight of the shared intellectual experience of having read Mr. Beah's moving personal history, A Long Way Gone, Memoirs of a Boy Soldier. Since nearly all of us have read the book, I will not burden the introduction of this wonderful writer, Ishmael Beah, with the recital of facts summarized discursively on the inside cover of your convocation program. It's not only a fan. And emblazoned in our imaginations in vivid detail by Mr. Beah's gifts as a storyteller. Ishmael Beah has given us, in A Long Way Gone, not only an intimate account of a childhood hijacked by bloody civil war, violence, and atrocity, but also a testament to the resilience and integrity of the human spirit. That he is able to stand before us today as the eloquent spokesperson he has become for the child victims of war seems nothing short of miraculous. As a reader, I was struck, as I'm sure many of you were as well, by the things we have in common with a young man who grew up in the rural outreaches of Sierra Leone, upline, as he tells us the Creole term is for the world of his native land beyond the capital of Freetown. We have Bob Marley in common, and Run DMC and William Shakespeare. Far less surprising, though of far greater import, are the common elements of humanity that Beah appeals to and that rivet the reader to his narrative line. The hijinks of a high-spirited, troublesome boy, the deep yearning for parental love and approval, the extremes to which fear of annihilation can carry a wounded spirit. In the words of a haunting modern folk song, we have to ask ourselves, when will they ever learn? Think of the scene in A Long Way Gone when young Ishmael, already thoroughly acculturated to the life of a child soldier, finds his lieutenant sitting, book in hand, reading Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, a play from which Ishmael had been proud to recite monologues from his photographic memory and the days in which he was still in the bosom of his family and his village. Think of the bloody central scene in Julius Caesar. The conspirators, having killed a military strongman they fear will usurp the republic, stoop and bathe their hands in his blood. And then they are enjoined to go out into the marketplace, waving our red weapons o'er our heads and crying peace, freedom, and liberty. How many ages hence, Cassius asks, so shall this our lofty scene be acted o'er in states unborn and accents yet unknown? Did Beah's lieutenant, seeing in his mind's eye those bloody weapons brandished under the banner of peace, freedom, and liberty, see himself and his troop of child soldiers as yet another enactment of that age-old tragedy being acted out upline in Sierra Leone in states unborn and accents yet unknown? When will they ever learn? When will we ever learn? If there is any hope of our getting to that point in human evolution when we will have learned, then narratives like Ishmael Beah's are beacons on the way to that fugitive destination. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Ishmael Beah.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you very much for the warm welcome, and I also want to welcome everyone who's here, especially the first-year students, and also the University of Vermont, Mr. President, chairpersons, vice president, and the president of the Student Council for selecting me to be here. It's a true honor. I'm reminded by two things standing in front of you. First of all, I'm reminded of back home because I'm extremely hot in this thing. And secondly, I was reminded about my own college, Oberlin College, when I heard that people love to go naked bike riding. It's a tradition here. So thank you for those two memories. Now, what I would do as a way of really thanking the university and especially the first years for taking the summer to read this book, I decided that I should read a few short excerpts from it for you as a way of extending my gratitude to you. I'm sure there are other things you could have done over the summer that are more fun than reading this book. So I want to thank you for that. And so in that spirit of gratitude, I'm going to read a few short excerpts from here, and then I will, in addition to that, I will speak a little bit to you about what my feelings are about education and the importance of it to me, and what I hope would be the same for you, or as I hope you would discover your own reasons for embarking on this journey of self-discovery, which to me is education or learning. So what I would do, I'm going to read a second chapter of this book, which is basically it's a very short chapter about when I first moved to the United States, living in New York, and how the memories of the war continue to follow me. So I will read that. I'm sure a lot of people have either heard of this book or have read it, so I won't do too much prefacing. So here we are. I am pushing a rusty wheelbarrow in a town where the air smells of blood and burnt flesh. The breeze brings the faint cries of those whose last breaths are leaving their mangled bodies. I walk past them. Their arms and legs are missing. Their intestines spill out through the bullet holes in their stomachs. Brain matter comes out of their noses and ears. The flies are so excited and intoxicated that they fall on the pools of blood and die. The eyes of the nearly dead are redder than the blood that comes out of them, and it seems that their bones will tear through the skin of their taut faces at any minute. I turn my face to the ground to look at my feet. My tattered sneakers are soaked with blood, which seems to be running down my army shorts. I feel no physical pain. so I am not sure whether I've been wounded. I can feel the warmth of my AK-47's barrel on my back. I don't remember when I last fired it. It feels as if needles have been hammered into my brain, and it is hard to be sure whether it is day or night. The wheelbarrow in front of me contains a dead body wrapped in white bedsheets. I do not know why I'm taking this particular body to the cemetery. When I arrive at the cemetery, I struggle to lift it from the wheelbarrow. It feels as if the body is resisting. I carry it in my arms, looking for a suitable place to lay it to rest. My body begins to ache, and I can't lift a foot without feeling a rush of pain from my toes to my spine. I collapse on the ground and hold the body in my arms. Blood spots begin to emerge on the white bedsheets covering it. Setting the body on the ground, I start to unwrap it, beginning at the feet. All the way up to the neck, there are bullet holes. One bullet has crushed the Adam's apple and sent the remains of it to the back of the throat. I lift the cloth from the body's face. I am looking at my own. I lay sweating for a few minutes on the cool wooden floor where I had fallen before turning on the light so that I could completely free myself from the dream world. A piercing pain ran through my spine. I studied the red exposed brick wall of the room and tried to identify the rap music coming from a car passing by. A shudder racked my body, and I tried to think about my new life in New York City, where I had been for over a month. But my mind wandered across the Atlantic Ocean back to Sierra Leone. I saw myself holding an AK-47 and walking through a coffee farm with a squad that consisted of many boys and a few adults. We were on our way to attack a small town that had ammunition and food. As soon as we left the coffee farm, we unexpectedly ran into another armed group at a soccer field adjoining the ruins of what had once been a village. We opened fire until the last living being in the other group fell to the ground. We walked toward the dead bodies, giving each other high fives. The group had also consisted of young boys like us, but we didn't care about them. We took their ammunition, sat on their bodies, and started eating the cooked food they had been carrying. I got up from the floor, soaked a white towel with a glass of water, and tied it around my head. I was afraid to fall asleep, but staying awake also brought back painful memories. Memories I sometimes wish I could wash away, even though I'm aware that they are an important part of what my life is, who I am now. I stayed awake all night, anxiously waiting for daylight, so that I could fully return to my new life to rediscover the happiness I had known as a child, the joy that had stayed alive inside me even through times when being alive itself became a burden. These days, I live in 3 words: my dreams and the experiences of my new life, which trigger memories from the past. Now, before I read the other very short chapter of the book, I just want to say a few words about what I just read. I like to read that because I think I really want to give people a stronger sense of what war does to the human being, regardless of where you're from. Because I think war or any form of violence itself, because I think when people haven't been truly touched by violence, there is a sort of interest in it, and there's a sort of people don't really understand what it means to be in a war, or what it means to lose somebody, or what it means to be deeply affected by violence. There's a romantic sense of what warfare is or violence is, and so I want to read that. I like to read that because I want to remind people that there is nothing romantic about violence or war of any sort, that it only brings about suffering. I believe, from my experience, that it takes more courage for somebody to actually back away from violence rather than to engage in it. It's the simplest thing to do if somebody pushes you for you to push back or to fight back, but it takes a courage to not strike back. I've had to learn that the hard way, and I hope that some of you here would not have to learn to go through the experiences I went through in order to believe what I'm saying. The reason why people like me, I'm not the only survivor of this, or I'm not the only survivor of things that have gone wrong in human history, but everyone, I think, speaks of tell their stories as a way to let others who have experiences know that these are things that are not beneficial to you at all. I also want to say that for Sierra Leone particularly, people were drawn to Sierra Leone. People learned about this country because of the Civil War. So a lot of people's perception of it is only a place where there had always been violence. Sierra Leone was once peaceful, And even I couldn't imagine that I would be capable of doing some of the things that I was a part of, was forced to be a part of. So that also goes to show that we all have the tendencies to be truly evil and be truly good. But I believe that we're truly good. Circumstances can make us evil. And I hope that you can keep that in mind, that losing one's humanity completely, it's not specific to Africans, to Latin Americans, to wherever these civil wars are, that all of us have that capacity. The next chapter I'm about to read talks a little bit about school. I really believe that through education, I think we're able to cure that. We're able to be in a position to see what is good and bad for us, what is beneficial not only for us, but for others as well, how we can live a life peaceful so that our actions actually benefit others instead of harming them. So what I'm going to read now a little bit here talks a little bit about, that is if I can find it. I seem to have lost it, all right. Talks a little bit about after I'd come out of the war, I'd gone through rehabilitation. I had a dear friend of mine from childhood who came to live with me and my uncle in Freetown, the capital of Sierra Leone, and how going back to school after having lived through the experience was a way to reconnect to a world that was once peaceful. So to me, education was more than just waking up in the morning and going to school. It was a way to reclaim the childhood I'd lost, to reclaim the humanity that I'd lost. And I think education itself is also a discovery of your own humanity. But for somebody who had lost it, it was an initial step, again, to start over discovering who I had been. So this is a very short place, and then I will speak to you a little bit about education. Mohammed and I started school again at St. Edward's Secondary School. I was excited. I remembered the morning walks to my primary school, the sound of brooms sweeping fallen mango leaves, startling birds who would chatter in even higher pitches as if inquiring from each other the meaning of the harsh sound. My school had only a small building which was made of mud bricks and a tin roof. There were no doors, no cement on the floor inside, and it was too small to hold all the pupils. Most of my classes were conducted outside under mango trees that provided shade. Mohammed mostly remembered the lack of school materials in our primary and secondary schools and how we had to help the teachers grow crops in their farms or gardens. It was the only way the teachers who hadn't been paid for years could make a living. The more we talked about it, the more I realized that I'd forgotten what it felt like to be a student, to sit in class, to take notes, do homework, make friends, and provoke other students. I was eager to return, but on the first day of school in Freetown, all the students sat apart from us as if Mohammed and I were going to snap any minute and kill someone. Somehow they had learned that we had been child soldiers. We had not only lost our childhood in the war, but our lives had been tainted by the same experiences that still cause us great pain and sadness. We always walked to school slowly. I liked it because I was able to think about where my life was going. I was confident that nothing could get any worse than it had been, and that thought made me smile a lot. I was still getting used to being part of a family again. I also began telling people that Mohammed was my brother so that I wouldn't have to explain anything. I knew I could never forget my past, but I wanted to stop talking about it so that I would be fully present in my new life. Now, one thing that I wanted to talk to you about today is education. What is the purpose of it? What is the fundamental goal of it? Why do we go to school? Why do we learn? Now, for a lot of people, perhaps coming to school, I've lived in the United States to know it's something that you have to do as a young person. But for me, coming from a place where that opportunity was not present, not everyone has the opportunity to go to school. So going to school meant something more than just that. But I want to assure you that, and I want to convince you that the purpose of education shouldn't just be about doing it because that's what everyone before you had done, or also because it's a way to give you a career, or it's a way for you to seek some sort of professionalism and or be able to make a living. These are all part of the reasons why you go to school, but I don't think they are the main reasons. I want to change your minds a little bit about that, especially for the people who are starting, and even those who are somewhat a little bit in college now, university, or those who are continuing on. For me, education is a way to discover yourself, to discover your place in not only your society but in the world, and how you can serve yourself and others. And through education, through learning, which continues forever, I believe, you learn to discover who you are in relationship to your society, to the world, to what you can bring to it. But also being in school, one of the things that I discover is that you learn to reshape, question, reorganize your values, your morals, things you've come to believe that are sacrosanct. You learn to question them. And I think everyone should do that. If, for some reason, somebody's sort of values or morals are more convincing than what you had come to believe through your learning process, you can switch to it. That doesn't mean that you're losing anything. If not, one of the things that you learn about education also to compromise, which is really what I believe that the current state of the world lacks. Everyone believes that they are right. A dogmatic point of view absolutely does not help anyone in any way. By compromising through education, you learn to compromise, learn to hear other people, learn to hear about other people's values and backgrounds. Just because somebody has different morals and values doesn't mean that they are bad necessarily. Having lived in the United States, particularly, I believe that it's come to be that case. If you're this, if you're not liberal, then you're horrible. If you're this, then you're that. I think that is a very simplistic way of looking at the human society itself. I think there should be a depth to that, which is that we should be willing to sit down with people with dislike severely and be able to talk and compromise and do certain things. And I think through education, by being exposed, especially in a liberal arts setting, you're able to do that. Now, for me, when I started college, at Oberlin College, I'd only done 2 years of high school in the United States. I was scared. When I went to the convocation talk, I was sitting there thinking, I'm not going to last the first semester in this school, because I could barely understand what it is that most of the people were saying. Also because I'd come from a place where I hadn't been in school for such a long time. I didn't understand how to go about the library and things of that sort. But I didn't give up. And I actually took a rhetoric and composition writing class because I wasn't sure whether my writing was really fit for college level. And I remember one of the first assignments we were given was to write about how you played as a child. I said, well, that would be very interesting. But obviously, I thought it was too early for me to explain how I played as a child during the war. So I wrote about how I played before the war. And then everyone was interested in learning from where I'm from. The reason why I'm telling this story is that there's also a cultural exchange that comes with education. I want education to not to expose you to the world beyond Vermont, beyond the United States. Expose yourself to the world so that you know what's going on in other places, not only here. Because I think if we do that, we don't need to wait for crisis in order to learn about the Middle East, to learn about other places. We need to know that other people exist in this world that we all live in, and that we're all part of a larger human society. And I think through education, I really applaud you strongly that you try to expose yourself to the world as much as possible. When I first came to the United States, I was very shocked that when I was in high school, as I start the book with that, I would say to people, I'm from Sierra Leone. People would say, what is that? As if it was some people thought it was some sort of water bottling company, some mountain hiking, because it has Sierra in it, you know. And, you know, but for somebody who's coming from the outside, where you've learned so much about other places and you realize what's going on, it was very difficult for me to handle. But then I realized that, you know what, instead of getting angry, I need to educate people about where I'm from. This is also something I want you to do. Being angry does not serve anyone. You have to be able to put the anger aside. You must be angry because it gives you certain motivations, but you must not be bitter at all. Because when you're bitter, it does not do you any justice. You cannot focus. But, you know, instead of being angry, I was able to open people's ideas. So if somebody has a different perception of you, prove them wrong. Tell them something different. When I came here, a lot of people will usually meet you when you're generally from Africa. They say to you, oh, your English is so good. Yes, thank you is not even my first language, you know. But you would not say such a thing. But because one thing you come to realize is that it's because people are not exposed enough to the world. And I think nowadays, the kind of generation that we're growing up, we have the capacity to learn about places very quickly, to internalize it, and to even go there and see how people live there. So I want you to be able to do that through your education here. I also want you, when you come here, I'm sure the parents will not like this. Some of the parents might have ideas for you of what you need to do during your profession. I want you to discover what it is that you want to do while you're here. When I started college, I came from Sierra Leone where the two things you could only do was to be a doctor and be an accountant. I was very horrible at math, still very bad at mathematics. I was not very good at the sciences. So for me, if I lived in Sierra Leone, I would have tried my best. But when I came to the United States, going to university, I realized that there was more that I was interested in than just what I'd come to believe was my path. So I discovered that about myself. I discovered that I could write. I discovered I was interested in political science, which is what I studied in college. So also be open to other things that are available out there for you. Now, I will tell you a quick story before I wrap up. My father, the way he taught us, he would never explain to us what it is that we had done. He would tell us a story. And one of the stories that he told us when we would repeatedly agree with people or do certain things because we didn't want to argue certain fundamental things, he told us a story that there was once a minister, a president, who invited everyone in his castle because he wanted to elect a vice president. And asked but he needed to find somebody who was honest, somebody who was willing to challenge him, somebody who was willing to not always agree with him. But he couldn't find a way to do it. So he invited all of them to his castle. And then he would take them one by one outside on the balcony of his castle. And there was a bird. There was a white bird sitting in a tree. And he would say to each one of them, "Isn't that a beautiful black bird?" And each one of them said, "Yes, sir, it is a beautiful black bird. It's very beautiful." Except for one guy who said, "Sir, you must either be really colorblind or something is wrong with you. That is a white bird. It's not a black bird." The reason why I'm telling this is that, you know, I want your education to give you that kind of courage to disagree with things that you don't, think are right, to be able to question even yourself, what you do, what your parents do, what people who you hold dearly do before you agree with them. Not only to take everything for what it is, but to question it, to even question yourself, your own actions. Because I think it's only through that you can discover what it means for you to be human, what it means for you to be a part of this world that we all live in, and what you can give to it. Now, to end my talk, again, being a lover of Shakespeare, I could not end this talk without giving a Shakespearean quote. And since Mr. President started it, I decided I should continue. One of my favorite lines from Shakespeare comes from King Lear, which I think applies to the current state of the world that we have, which is that when the king is in the rain, he realized what he has done, what has happened to him, and he said to the fool, "When we are born, we cry that we've come to this great stage of fools." Now, for me, that shows, kind of wraps up what human history is. We keep repeating the same things over and over. But I want to assure you that having gone around and spoken in front of different young people and having a chance to sit down with them and talk to them, I've become hopeful that 10, 15 years from now, when people are born, I hope that they will cry for a different reason, not because they've come to a great stage of fools. I want to thank you very much for having me, and I also want to welcome you to a start of your undergraduate career here, and some of you who are already here. I hope that you've had a beautiful academic awakening here. And I also want to say, also have fun while you're here. Fun is good. You should have fun, definitely. You should be serious, take your work seriously, but also try to have fun with it. And try, whenever you learn anything, to think about how you can apply it practically to your life, to changing your community, to changing yourself. And once you have that mindset, I think your education will be more meaningful than just making A's or just being the best student. But you will come out of this experience feeling as a human being who has learned something about what it means to be alive, what it means to be human, what it means to be a part of a greater humanity. And you can join that stage. And I want to thank you again. Thank you for having me.
Mr. Beah, I don't really know what else to say except thank you for your powerful and poignant message. And thank you so much for your book, which sheds light on a tragic experience that is unfortunately shared by too many, and equally as unfortunate, understood by too few. As president of the Student Government Association, I want to share with all of you a little bit about my experience at UVM. And of course, I have advice meant to foster your success. But first, since you have all been patiently listening to us, it's time for us to take a moment to listen to you. I invite Mr. Beah to answer some of the questions that your peers have submitted. Shirsti Daly of Winooski, Vermont asks, what were some of the conclusions reached and solutions discussed by you and other international participants at the UN Summit in New York? Have steps been taken by the participants or by UN leaders toward achieving these solutions or goals?
Several steps have been taken, but what you have to realize that mobilizing international attention behind something, international focus, and putting together international instruments and laws to combat the use of children in war, to even prevent wars, it's a very slow step. But a lot of things have been done, but the magnitude of the problem is so big that what has been done to rectify the problem sometimes make it as if nothing has been done. Steps have been taken. For example, there are people who are now being brought in front of the International Criminal Court. Charles Taylor, Lubanga from the Congo being tried for using children in war. In Sierra Leone particularly, there are a few people who are tried for using children in war. So a lot of things have been done. But as you know, I think a lot of people, particularly in the United States, in Europe and other places, sometimes think the UN perhaps is useless. I never want anyone to say that, because the United Nations, it's only as good as the member states who are part of it. If the United Nations is not functioning, it's because the members of the Security Council, who are the United States, Great Britain, and so on, are not willing to have it function very well. But even having said that, this is the only place where people can come to discuss even these things. Because of the United Nations, other organizations have sprung out of it that gives us the chance to learn about things that happen to people like me. Because of the UN, UNICEF came out of it, it was able to rescue me out of that situation, so I stand in front of you to talk to you. So these organizations do some stuff that is absolutely important. And so steps have been taken, but more needs to be done, which is why I continue, which is why I wrote this book, which is why I continue to speak about this, so that people don't forget, so that the public perception of these things, the public understanding of it continues, and the public outrage, hopefully, will rise to a point that they will push their government to do a lot of things about preventing the use of children in war.
Thank you. Calvin Hassel of Bronx, New York, has this question. Is there anything you repeat to yourself each day to help you get through the difficulty of remembering your past?
Well, first of all, when I wake up each morning, for me, after my experience from where I've come from, I'm very happy to just wake up in the morning, which is why I'm always smiling, because for me, from where it's such a blessing to just be able to wake up in peace, not to run from war, not to feel like your life is in danger. So for me, just waking up itself is enough for me to feel extremely happy. Very little things bother me. This is not to say I don't get hurt or I don't get upset. I have all those human tendencies as well, because I'm as human as anyone else. But you know, one thing I want to highlight is that I think a lot of people think that healing from war or from sort of traumatic experience is forgetting. It's not forgetting completely. It's learning to live with it. It's learning to transform it so that actually that experience has become more of instructional tools to my life, the way I appreciate life, how I look at what my role is and what I want to do with my life. So for me, that's what it's become. So when I wake up in the morning, I'm very happy. I put on my Bob Marley music, whatever it is I need to do, and I get on with my life. And sometimes I'm as confused as the average American kid. It's all part of it, you know.
Thanks. Ann Cooch of Braintree, Vermont is wondering, have you gone back to Sierra Leone since you left the country in 1997? Do you want to go back, and what do you miss?
Yes, I actually was back in Sierra Leone last year for the first time. And you know, I'd been wanting to go, but when I left, the war was going on, and then I was in school and so on and so forth. But I went back, and it was very strange. There are a few things that happened. One remarkable thing happened there in Sierra Leone, which is that, you know, after the war, I had a difficult time sleeping. But when I went back to Sierra Leone, it was the place that I was able to sleep deeper than I've ever been able to sleep anywhere since my experiences during the war. And it got me thinking, and I realized that, you know, my body recognized that landscape, that this was my home. This is my home. It will always be my home, regardless of what had happened there. And I miss it dearly. First of all, the weather is great. There's no winter there, you know. Second, no offense to American cuisine, the food is absolutely excellent there, you know. So there are a lot of things. And I also like the simplicity of life that people have there. People are so happy even though they have very little. They're satisfied with the things they have. So I miss the simplicity of life that's there, the weather and the people there. So I will definitely go back. I want to make it my home. My home is here also now because I have become part of a family here that I hold very dearly to my heart. So I'll go back and forth. So I consider myself as a Sierra Leonean still with American tendencies. So I like to think of myself.
Kofi Mensah of Bronx, New York asks, before your involuntary participation in the Civil War, did you believe that there was a God? How did your views change if you believed in God during and after the war?
I believe that there was a God. In Sierra Leone, there are two main religions: it's Christianity and Islam. And so, this is a less-known fact, is that Sierra Leone is one of the most religious tolerant nations in the world that I know of. Your mom will be Christian and your dad will be Muslim. They'll have weddings in the church and the mosque. As a kid, I went to the church if the music was good. And I went to the mosque because I was raised Muslim. And so there was never such a thing. So I grew up actually as a Muslim. And I believe in God. And even after the war, I still believed in God. But I don't hold any allegiance to any particular religion. Just a brief chat of my religious history, if I can call it that, is that I grew up as a Muslim through primary school. And then I went to secondary school to Christian schools, which I had to learn the Bible. So Bible knowledge was compulsory. So I learned the Bible, and I even preached Sermon on the Mount and all that stuff. And then when I was coming to live with my adopted family here, I stopped through South Africa, and I lived with befriended a Jewish family. So I went to Shabbat for 6 months, and I learned a little bit of that. So I came to live with my mother here, who is Jewish but Buddhist. So I went to meditate a little bit, you know. So I've kind of done a little bit of everything. So at this point, I hold no allegiance to any particular religion. It depends on the day and time where I am. I could claim one or the other, but they all work for me in different ways. Yeah.
Thanks. Our last question comes from Ari Ben Ezri Ravine of South Burlington, Vermont, asking, in your book, you said that the only way to stop children from becoming unwilling soldiers is to have peace and to end civil wars. How can we make this happen? Is there anything that we, as American college students, can do to help end wars like the ones in Sierra Leone and Darfur?
Well, first of all, I think yes, there are a lot of things that you can do. But the first thing starts with educating yourself about these places, knowing about what's going on, exposing yourself to the world. Now you can go to your senator, your congressman. If you're not equipped with information, you can look easily like a fool by saying that, oh, why don't you do something in this place? And they'll be like, well, what's going on there? Or what can we do? Then you have nothing to give back. So first, I would strongly suggest you learn about what's going on in other places. If you go to Human Rights Watch webpage, UNICEF, you'll find a lot of information on the internet about what's going on. Learn, empower yourself. And then you can ask questions, push your congressman to do a lot of things. One thing you can also do is to devote your time and energy. If you are college students, have an internship somewhere where people are needed to help intern for an organization, anywhere where things are going on that you think should be corrected. Go there and see what it's like, experiences, meet the people, and try to do what you can. Make your parents donate money to certain organizations that you think, or you yourself raise money through your school and support organizations. There are a lot of young people who have initiatives of building schools in different parts of the world where they want to see schools established. You can do that. You have that power. But another thing that you can do currently, I'm part of the Human Rights Watch Children Advisory Committee, and one of the things that we're pushing for with Senator Durbin from Illinois is trying to get the U.S. government to stop giving military aid to countries that recruit children or allow that to happen in their countries. And the research that has been done by the State Department is that 20 out of the 30 countries or so that are recruiting children receive military aid from the United States, either directly or indirectly. So there's this bill that has been passed called the Child Soldier Act in Senate now that you can ask your congressman to support that ask for the U.S. government to stop that military or to make it a requirement that if you receive military aid from us, you shouldn't have child soldiers in your country. Now, a lot of people who want military aid from the U.S. would change their practice because they want that. So that's something that you can do currently. I myself have started a foundation called the Ishmael Beah Foundation to try to give educational opportunities through scholarships to children who have been affected by war in Sierra Leone and wherever there are wars in the world that children have been affected by. There are so many things that you can do. But first, empower yourself with information. And if you're not convinced that you can help thus far, talk to me afterwards. I'll do my best to convince you further. And, just expose yourself more to the world.
Thank you so much, Mr. Beah.
Thank you.
Class of 2011, as I stand before you today, I am much closer to my commencement than my convocation. Now, before I could even think of what to say next, I had to find some meaning for these words. What is convocation? And if you're beginning your college career, isn't that sort of like a commencement? Well, it doesn't really help to know that convocation is the act of convoking, but I finally found a definition that lent some meaning. A group gathered in response to a summons. So take the time to ask yourself now, what is your summons? Why are you here today? Now, I know some of you are probably thinking it's because your RA made you come, but bear with me here because there's more to it than that. The playwright Susan Laurie Parks once said, "Believe that the sort of life you wish to live is at this very moment, just waiting for you to summon it up. And when you wish for it, you begin moving toward it, and it in turn begins moving toward you." Well, you have to believe in yourself before you can believe in the life you wish to live. And what kind of life do you wish to live anyway? For that matter, have you even picked a major? And that is precisely why you're here. What a privilege you have. Before you even begin, you have 4 years to envision and prepare for the life you wish to lead. So what do you do between convocation and commencement to make the most of this privilege? There are 3 things that help guide me to a pretty successful undergraduate career. 1 physical, 1 mental, and 1 spiritual. Get enough sleep, create your own opportunities, and as Mr. Beah has so eloquently conveyed, listen to one another's stories and be cognizant of your own narrative. It sounds very simple, doesn't it? Get enough sleep? Would you believe I, the student government president, a double major, and a 2-time national scholarship winner, who's also writing a thesis, have gotten to where I am today having spent a third of my time here sleeping? I have slept 8 hours almost every single night of my college career and count it as one of my greatest achievements because it allowed the others to happen. So listen to your elders because the simplest advice can go a long way. What do I mean when I say create your own opportunities? While you are here, if you wait for opportunity to knock, you are at the whim of whatever shows up at your doorstep. You cannot be passive about the privilege of an education, as many of the speakers have said today. Let me put it this way. If the world were a village of 100 people, Only one would have a college education. Only one. That may seem abstract sitting in a room with 3,000 of your peers, but you have made it this far. It is now time to take your academics by the reins, engage in meaningful activities, and be proactive about the person you want to be when you leave. As Mr. Beah wrote in his book, whenever a story is told, it is worth listening to. So many conflicts, from roommate skirmishes to world wars, could be mitigated if only we listened to and accepted each other's stories, if we really understood where one another was coming from. Everyone has a story worth listening to, including you. The foundation of tolerance is moving away from the idea that there's one truth, one universal right and wrong, and to simply tell a story. So where does your story begin? Some people are so afraid of the impossibility of living the life they wish to lead that they miss the chance to work toward it and actually make it a reality. This is your chance, between convocation and commencement, to come as close as you can to ensuring your future happiness and success. You are here because this university believes in you, and now it is up to you to believe in yourself, each other, and the life you can summon up. So start acting on your dreams. Thank you. It gives me great pleasure to now introduce the UVM Top Cats and the UVM Cats Meow. Please join us in singing the school song, Universitas V Montis.
Thank you to the Top Cats and the Cats Meow, our wonderful a cappella groups. We hope now that you will join us on the University Green for the Class of 2011 induction ceremony. The pipes and drums of St. Andrew's Society of Vermont will lead the platform party and the Class of 2011 new students out of the gym. Please allow the procession to pass before joining the procession on our walk across the campus to the Green. Thank you all for coming. I officially declare these proceedings closed.